Frontier has proposed a new system for crime and punishment, and they're asking for your feedback. So today we're looking at both the current and the new proposed system. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. Frontier has recently launched a new subforum where they are putting out ideas for how they want to change the game, and then they're asking for your feedback. So you can now give Frontier direct feedback on the changes before they're made, which I think is absolutely great that they're doing more of this, listening more to the community. I think it's wonderful that they do something like this. But the first thing they're looking at is the crime and punishment system. So that made me think, okay, I'm actually not 100% sure how the crime and punishment system work. So I sat down and I tried to get an overview of how the current system is, and also to do a rough sketch of how it's going to be in the future, if the proposed changes go through. But let's start by looking at the current system. So here is a small flowchart of the current bounty system, and you can see that it is actually quite extensive and a little bit complicated, but let's go over it slowly. So of course you will start as clean, and I should say that this is only within a single jurisdiction. I've not done this on multi jurisdictions at the same time, so that means that this is probably only within a single system, for instance. So let's say you're clean in a system, you have no bounties, you have no fines in the system. You can then perform either a minor crime or major crime. Major crime would be attacking a police ship or killing a non-wanted ship. A minor crime would probably be something like jettison cargo next to a station, hazardous flying close to the station, stuff like that. You pretty much, I would assume you know when you're getting shot at by the police and when you're just getting a fine. But let's take the case where you perform a minor crime and you get a fine. Now the fine can then go in three different directions. If your ship is, first of all, you can go to the station, you can pay it off. That's the easiest one. You go dock at the station, you pay your fine, and you're back to being clean. Now, if you don't pay off your fee and your ship is destroyed, your fine then turns in from a standard fine into a legacy fine. And the legacy fine can then either be paid off at the station, same way as the normal fine, but if your ship is then destroyed, next time it would be added to your rebuy cost, and you will then, both cases here, you'll end up back at the clean status. So regardless, you're going to end up paying off the fee one way or another. Either you do it voluntarily or you have to pay it off the next time your ship is destroyed. Alternatively, if your ship is not destroyed and you don't pay off the fine, or you perform a second crime, then the fine will mature, as they call it, into a bounty, and you will then be wanted. This will also happen if you do not pay your fine within 7 days. It will also mature into a bounty, and you will then suddenly be wanted. Same case if you perform a major crime in the system, you will always also end at the wanted status. For the wanted status, two things can happen. Either the bounty is claimed, and keep in mind that security ships in the system does not claim bounties. So let's say that your bounty is claimed. The amount you had of the bounty will then mature into a legacy fine, and we're back at the legacy fine that you either pay off or pay off doing your rebuy. Alternatively, if your bounty is not collected, if you're killed by a system security ship, or 7 days pass, so no one's collected your bounty within 7 days, your bounty will then turn into a dormant bounty. Just to make this a little bit more complicated. So now that you have a dormant bounty, it's essentially the same, it's just not active. You're not actively being hunted or wanted anymore in the system. But if you perform another crime with a dormant bounty in the current jurisdiction, remember this is all within the same jurisdiction. So if you have a dormant bounty, you perform another crime, or you're being scanned by a system security ship, that dormant bounty will then turn into an active bounty, and you're back to the wanted state again. So if we go back to the dormant bounty and you yet again wait 7 days. So let's say you finish this. So let's say you have a dormant bounty, you wait again 7 days, and you're back to the legacy fine. So that means, let's say you perform a minor crime in a system, and you just leave the system and don't come back. Let's say you've done it in Colonia and you fly back to the bubble. Then your fine in Colonia will after a week mature into a bounty. You'll then be wanted in the system. After a week they will stop hunting you, and it will mature into a dormant bounty, and after that bounty has been dormant for another week, it will turn into a legacy fine. And note here that legacy fines never mature. They always stay there indefinitely until your ship is destroyed. You have to pay off doing the rebuy. So that's the current system. As you can see, not the most simple system there is, but let's try and have a look at some of the proposed changes. So here is the flowchart for the new proposed system as I understand it. There are a few details here that I'm not 100% sure of, but let's try to go over it anyway. We can see we still have our standard clean state, and you can either perform a minor or a major crime. In case of the minor crime, you will get a fine that you can then pay off at a security office at the stations. So again, notice the fine will never mature. It will stay there indefinitely. But as long as you have your fine, the fine is not bound to you as a commander, it's bound to your ship. That means that your ship now has the status hot. And when your ship is hot, that means if you have a fine on your ship, that ship, as long as you're in that ship, you will not have access to many of the station facilities, including outfittings and the market. You will be able to hand in missions, active missions that you have, but you will not be able to take new missions. And you will of course also have access to the security office so you can pay off your fine. So that means that you will have to pay off your fine if you want to use the stations in that system again. Let's say you perform a major crime and you then get wounded. Then three things can happen. You can apparently pay off your wanted status at what they call interstellar factors. And they say that's going to be at an increased rate. So it's not just because you have a bounty of 1,000 credits, you just pay 1,000 credits. It's probably going to be quite a bit more. In terms of numbers, we don't know, but I would expect it to be probably something like maybe times 10, times 100, maybe even times 1,000. I have no idea, but I would expect it to be quite a bit more than the actual bounty is to pay it off. And I think, and this is the point where I'm not really sure, that these interstellar factors, I think they are at these new detention facilities, which I will talk more about in a bit, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Now, again, of course, the wanted, again, it never matures, so it will stay there as it is. But okay, let's say that you then have your ship destroyed. If your ship was destroyed and you were not detected, as hostile, you were just killed in the system, you will spawn at the closest non-hostile station, and you will be back to being wanted. Wanted, of course. It's because the bounty was never collected. Nobody knew you have the bounty. I should probably say that when you have the wanted status, the same rules apply as with the fine, of course. So you will not have access to all the stuff in the system. But again, wanted status is locked to the ship, not to the commander. So if you have a bounty in one ship, you can just switch over to another ship and you'll be bounty free. So you will still have access to the facilities, just not in the ship that is currently in the hot status, so have either a fine or a bounty. Okay, let's say that again you do get detected that you have a bounty and your ship is destroyed. You will then spawn at these detention facilities, and they said that this is most likely going to be some kind of mega ship, so it's going to be some special structure you're going to spawn at, which could potentially be quite far away. And in there, I would expect you would have to again pay off these, pay off your bounty again. So you have to pay it regardless, and then of course you will end up back at the clean status. Now, there are a few points here that I'm not 100% sure of. So if I missed something, let me know. I highly recommend that you head over to the forum and read up on it yourself. I'll put a link to the new subforum in the description below the video. Yeah, I highly recommend you go over and you take part in it and have a look at the forums, because I mean, right now they're looking at crime and punishment, but I would expect them to do a lot more of this in the future when they're doing major changes to some of the gameplay mechanics. Just one final comment here. As far as I can see, your fines will never mature into a wanted status. So there's, as far as I can understand, there's no way that in this new proposed system that your fine will become a bounty. they are two completely separate things. You can see they are two completely separate loops. So if you have a fine, it will always be a fine. And if you have a wanted and you're at bounties, then it will always stay as a bounty until it's paid off, of course. So anyway, I hope you found this video entertaining and found it useful. If you did, give a like down below and consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, I will see you guys in space.